Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, welcome back to Whistle Talk, Inside the Mind of a Football Official, the podcast that dives deep into the intricate world of football officiating. I'm your host, Mike D, the referee, and today we're strapping on our metaphorical cleats and stepping onto the field to explore the fine art of officiating mechanics and keys. Whether you're a diehard football fan, a budding referee, or just somebody who's curious to know what goes on behind the scenes, today's podcast is your all-access pass into the unseen elements of the all right, so here we are tonight with Chris Schalnat. I gave a little bit of an introduction before, but I'm going to pass it off to Chris, let him kind of give our listeners a little bit of a personal background about himself in the football officiating world.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So a Midwest kid, grew up in Ohio, played high school football, then went off to college. I was an engineer, went to Purdue, so it was no more football for me. And then moved to New Jersey in, I guess, 2003 and worked for the Navy. And we have lunchtime intramurals, one of which was flag football. We also had, we still have softball and soccer and basketball, pretty much everything. And Dave Deinhardt works on the base, and he was one of the officials. And I would give him a hard time all the time for for like just, screwing stuff up or whatever. And then for one of the flag football games, he was wearing his, uniform top, and I saw there were some patches, and I asked him what he's doing, and he said he does high school, he refs high school football. And he said it's a blast and I should try it out. So 2012 was my cadet year, the Sandy year.
Oh.
Yeah, because that's when because those classes, we only changed like 2 years ago with it being in the spring. So, we were mid-season.
Yeah.
So we had to stop for a few weeks. And then, so 13 was my first carded year. And we still didn't put anybody on crews until your second carded year. So our first carded year, we bounced around. Worked a couple of varsity games as a fill-in. And then my second year, I joined Van Scoy's crew. I think it was his first year. It might have been his second year as a white hat after being a head linesman for, I don't know, probably close to 30 years.
Okay.
With Salerno. He picked up a bunch of young guys, me and Rob Boyle and Brian Guiney. And I was a deep man. So at that point, we were like half five, half six.
Okay.
So I was the back judge on 5-man, and then I was a field judge for 6-man. And I did that for 5 years. And then I'm drawing a blank right now. Loschwitz kind of sort of pulled a last minute kind of same thing, upset with some playoffs and ended up just pulling chalks and quit. And at that point, I was a trustee on the board. There was a list of people who were interested in becoming white hats, but everybody turned it down. Most of the guys kind of want to take over a crew they're on. There's not a lot of guys that like taking over existing crews that they're not on because it's rough. It's a rough way to start, certainly. And it was for me being, 5 years into it, I was still really green. And the crew didn't really know who I was. So it was certainly not the ideal way to start. This year was my 5th year as a referee.
As a head referee?
Right. So I was trustee for 3 years. So on our organization, you have to be in for 5 years before you can run. So right at 5 years, I ran for trustee, which is a 3-year term. Then I took a year off, and then I ran for vice president and won. And so did 2 years of that. And then this year we ran again and I won again. So now I'm starting my second 2-year term as vice president. And then
Okay.
in all those
Yep.
years, I've been the head of the mechanics committee, head of the now it's the rules and mechanics, so it's me and the rules interpreter Certival, and then CBL, which I guess you know about now.
Yes.
I think you were on the CBL with me, right?
Yes, last year.
Yeah, I think this year I'm hoping because it's an off election year. I hope we can get some of those things enacted because the only thing in the ballot in the fall will be the one trustee spot. Um. So yeah,
All
I
right.
mean 5 years back judge, deep wing, and then 5 years referee. And I think I heard in your intro, like I've worked in a varsity game, everything but umpire. So I've
And
worked.
that's my spot now.
I know I've worked a decent amount of short wing, and I've worked plenty of umpire and 4-man, and now with Mudcat insisting
Oh
on
yeah.
us doing umpire on 3-man, which I'll never understand, but that's his thing, so that's what we got to do.
So now, 5 years now being a head referee, being the white hat, you've had to have seen some couple of different things, situations and whatnot. But talking specifically now with mechanics and different things like that, just for our listeners that are out there that might not know, what are some of your like pre-snap keys, reads? Where do you set yourself up? Different things like that before you're going, and what's kind of going through your mind like pre-snap of each snap? Do you have like any type of rituals that you do? Because a lot of times, I mean, you're wearing the white hat, so everybody kind of sees you and they know your name, especially on the sidelines where they don't really know everybody else's name. So, what do you do to kind of remind yourself of possibly different situations and just alignment, and different things like that?
Yeah, so referee, there is a lot going on and a lot to do, but really with your keys and your pre-snap stuff, there's not. I don't think there's a lot really for nothing near like a headlinesman has to do and stuff. I mean, every play, obviously, I'm counting my offense. I start with my 5 ineligibles, make sure I have those 5. I call them crooked numbers. I've heard other people call them that too. But your 5 ineligibles, because for the high school game you have to have that.
Mm-hmm.
So I count my 5, and then I count try to count my other 6, and then be my umpire. Just confirm I got 11, and then I try to watch when they're coming out into formation and try to just pick up my eligibles, especially if I know a coach has told me that they cover tight ends or they're doing some stuff. We have teams on the shore in high school that run every single play, so they cover their tight ends. They have 9, 10 guys on the line of scrimmage, but you can't get lazy on that. So you always make sure, hey, I know 85's covered, and you can check with your short wing and see who's punching back and not punching back, so you can kind of figure out, kind of help them a little bit because I know short wings are super overwhelmed with everything they have to do. So I try to pick up some of that. Um, yeah, like looking at my referee, make sure he's confirming with the 11 back to me, and also I kind of get a read on him to see if he's spotting the ball, if he's back up, he's backed up enough. Try to check all my guys real quick to make sure everybody's
Mm-hmm.
lined up right, especially after punts. Like I forget all, and I remember when I was a deep guy, they forgot about me all the time. Like you throw your beanbag, and the kid returns it 30 yards, and you have the wholesale offense defensive change, and then the referee blows his ready, and I'm 20 yards back trying to find my beanbag on a poorly lit field,
Oh yeah.
and I hear the whistle, and I'm like, oh no no no! And then you're running, like an idiot. So I've tried, and I've done that a couple of times. So at the point now where hey, I want to make sure I got all, 5 or 6 of us, however many, make sure everybody's in a position and everybody's paying attention. That nobody's dealing with a coach or some of that kind of issues. We don't have the ready to play, which is really nice. As far as once the plays are going, you're not blowing your whistle every play, so you kind of get the feel of the game going, and
And
yeah, and then
that
you're
was
just
a that was a pretty recent rule change with the ready for play change. Was about 2 years now.
yeah, I think probably a little bit more than that. Definitely
Okay.
since I was a referee, so in the last 5 years.
Okay.
I think my first year we were still doing the 25, and you had to blow the ready every play, and
Yep.
then so it might have been, but yeah, that was a great rule. We're not going back, but going to that more consistent, much easier to follow, just 40 seconds every time. Um,
So now, pre-snap keys as the referee. Now I know as the umpire, I've got certain keys that I'm looking for. So snap of the ball happens where my point should be focused on. Uh, a big problem that a lot of new officials tend to have that I've seen is a lot of people watching the football instead of watching their keys. And for me, as a former coach, it was something that I had to kind of break through and get over because I like to watch and see what was going on, but now focusing on keys. As you, as a referee, what are your keys that you're focusing on?
yeah, so that it you're talking about not watching the ball when you're a referee, you miss most of the game. And if you're watching the game, then you're really setting yourself up to fail. So pre-snap, I try to, and I have a problem with it too. Like I just try to really make sure I'm, that 10, probably even probably closer to 15 yards back, and then make sure you're well outside of the right tackle. I used to think I was back there, and then I'd watch film, and I'd be almost in line with a quarterback,
Okay.
maybe a little bit. So I've learned when you get wider like that, first of all, really all you have is the tackle and the quarterback. I usually try to help my umpire a little bit and help maybe watch a little bit of the guard. But when you're back that far, you have a good angle in at the quarterback center exchange, especially if they're under center.
Hmm.
You can watch and make sure that that's clean. Um, it helps with some false starts too. If you're back far enough, you can see little flinches. I think sometimes I'd be too zoomed in at the quarterback, and the right tackle would flinch, and I completely miss it.
Okay.
I'd hear everybody yelling, and I'm like, shoot, I was too close. I was too close, too zoomed in. So I've learned stay stay back, maybe even a little further than you think you are, because I've learned, my perception and my reality is totally different from watching film. So that's it. And then once the snaps, um, once I know that it's a clean exchange and the quarterback's got it, I try to, usually in the same field of view, pick up that right tackle and pick up what he's doing. If he's dropping back in a what looks like a pass block, or if he's moving downfield looking like he's run blocking, try to get a little idea what he's doing. Also, you can pick up the guard if you got any pulling guards or kind of their sets, and then really once you go back to once you're with the quarterback with the referee, that's all you watch, especially if he's throwing it. You know,
Yeah.
you can maybe get a little bit of that right tackle holding, but you much rather miss the hold and catch, a roughing the passer. So
Now,
we'll miss some penalties in there, but you absolutely, as soon as that ball's free, once it's thrown, you absolutely cannot watch. It's so tempting, and I watch a lot of film and I watch a lot of referees' hats, the bill of their hats, and they'll turn and watch it pass, and then the quarterback gets cleaned out, and you have no idea, right? And it's awful.
yeah, talking to a lot of white hats, they say that a good football game tends to be the most boring football game for the white hat because you're not really much involved in the play because you're so focused on the quarterback, and hopefully it's a clean game and not much penalty enforcement. But if you get caught watching the play, that's all of a sudden when the quarterback gets blindsided and unbeknownst to you.
Right, or it's a completely clean hit. Like you have it where it's a clean hit, everything's fine. The kid falls and he lands on his arm weird, or like God forbid that helmet whiplash into the ground, and of course the coach is going to be upset and very emotional coming on the field, and he might be saying, oh, like they're hitting my quarterback in the head, like that was helmet to helmet, and you can say, no, coach, I saw it. It hit him in the chest, and then on the way down, his head whiplashed into the turf. The worst thing is when you don't see it. You were looking at the pass, and now your kid's on the ground, and he's hurt, and the coaches are flipping out at you, and you have no answer. Like,
Yeah,
it's the worst. But if you saw, like, hey, it's he hit him right in the helmet, or face mask or something, and you were able to dump the flag for roughing the passer,
and,
it's
and
it's worth it
I
to
know,
miss the whole game.
yeah, and main focus is the safety of the kids out there too. So especially at the high school level. Oh, and even at the younger level with that. So now you mentioned before being the deep wing, how special teams kind of sometimes can throw you for a loop, and everybody always talks about how special teams and the kick game in particular is where the craziest things can happen. Past couple of years, we've seen a couple different mechanic changes with how our deep officials are playing, such things as punts and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on the mechanics that go into special teams, and what's your mindset in general about special teams plays?
Yeah, so just to bring it back a step, how you'd mentioned the rules and stuff, and it's a common saying. It's just like if it's going to happen, it's going to happen on a kick.
Yeah,
Like I read Rule 6 a couple times a year. I read through the whole Reading book, all kicking Reading book over and over and over because that's where you're going to get. It's where you're going to screw up a game, and it's also where you're going to make a lot of money during a game. If you know, hey, like K picked it up and on the line they advanced it, it's a touchdown, it's all legal, or K picked it up beyond the line of scrimmage, it's a dead ball, whatever, right? Like that's where you're really gonna cover it, and that's the rules that nobody knows.
yeah.
So if you got it, like you have to know it, and you have to be confident about it. So when you go to explain it to the coach or whoever you're explaining it to, you don't want to be making it up. So I read that all the time. Now, as far as the mechanics, again, I'm on the state mechanics committee. It moved a lot of times. The big problem with 6 man is it's not 5 man and it's not 7 man,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of mechanics that make sense on 5 man. There's a lot of mechanics that make sense on 7 man. I don't know. I mean, I've seen other states who do 6 man. I don't know how many states do it like we do. So
And let me just jump in really quick just to clarify for those people that don't understand what Chris is talking about. So in the 5 man mechanic and the 7 man mechanic, what he's talking about is 7 officials that are on the field or 5 officials that are on the field. There's going to be one person that we always refer to, baseball language, that's playing center field that's going to be closest to the punt returners and stuff like that. In the 6 man mechanic, you've got two deep guys, but they're flanked off to the sideline. So it's gone back and forth with different where their keys are and different mechanics in that aspect. And I'll let Chris jump back in, but I just wanted to clarify that so people understood the positioning that you're going to refer to.
yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I got to remember this is for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in New Jersey for our 6 man, like Mike alluded to, we have two. Our field judge and side judge are deep. In a regular scrimmage play, they're 22 to 25 yards, I believe, and they're
Mm-hmm.
off the field. Right? I've seen some 6 man, like I said, I grew up in Ohio. I was back home. My little brother's still kind of involved in coaching and stuff, and they have a 6 man where they have a back judge in the middle of the field, and then their sixth guy is back with a referee. So they have a referee, a center judge, an umpire, two short guys, and a back judge, right? So now, so the Federation, NFHS, does all the rules for, I think, what is it, 48 some states? It's like Texas and Oregon or somebody does their own stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
But then the
And I know
mechanics are up to
Colorado has some
this.
6 man.
Okay. But then the mechanics are up to the state. So states can do whatever they want with their mechanics.
Okay.
So it's everywhere, every state you go is going to be different. Our manual that comes out every year is written by the state, not by the federation. The rule book is the federation, but the mechanics book. So anyway, so because it's a hybrid back judge, we for a couple of years we had them on the field, maybe by the numbers or by the hashes, depending on what hash the ball was punted from, and then we were kind of having one guy. We talked about having one guy slide up a bit so you can see the front of the returner, because the big thing we're trying to get is the muff, and the
Mm-hmm.
sometimes intentional, sometimes unintentional. Just that ball bouncing, and it glances off the leg of the returner. That's a huge call, right?
Yeah.
It brushes up against the leg of the. We had one. Was it in the Super Bowl or was it? I think it was the
Yeah,
Super
it
Bowl or
was
was
in
it
the
the
Super
AFC
Bowl. Yep.
Championship game? But it was one of those. It touched the guy's leg,
Touch the
and then
returner's leg.
the kicking team got it, and now you got a first and goal or something. So it's a huge call. That when I was back as a back wing, a deep wing, they would we always talked about how you don't have a lot of calls but every call you have is huge,
Yeah.
right? You have that glancing off the foot. You have your OPIs, DPIs, your pass interferences, big game changers that you have to make. Catch, no catch, like on long passes, that kind of stuff. So you can kind of get lulled to sleep back there. But so anyway, so
Especially when
we
you got teams
now
that are running the ball.
last year we went with both deep guys are off the field, so they're always off the field, and I believe 7 yards deep from the return man. So you're still, I get the committee really wants you to make sure you don't. They're always worried about the goal line, right?
Yeah.
That's the deep guy's baby, is that goal line. So they don't want the ball to skip by, and then for high school rules, once the ball hits the goal line, it's dead.
Automatic
You know,
touchdown.
we don't have the returning out of the end zone that college and NFL have. So our goal line is a much different goal line than a lot of other levels. So they don't want us in line with the return man in case it gets by him, and then we're running backwards. And while you're running backwards, you're not watching all the flyers and all the blocks and all that kind of stuff. So I get it, but we're still a little bit susceptible, certainly, to that muff and the incidental contact. And we just have to kind of live with it. Just do your very best of saying it touched the guy or not. And
Yeah. So
and go with
unfortunately, with the 6-man mechanic that we have been finding out is a lot of times there are, in essence, dead zones at different times of the game, and that punt one is one that I know everybody in every crew has little nuances that they work with each other on how to try to cover that. If it's maybe a short wing snapping their head back a little bit quicker, or the umpire spinning a little bit quicker once the second level is cleared through them. So I know a lot of different crews do some different things, but it's the same thing with that pass interference down the middle of the field. It's unfortunately everybody's got different keys and different areas to look at, but there's sometimes that it does hit into a dead zone where there's no sets of eyes, unfortunately, looking at.
Yeah, and you also get into. I know I've had a my crew and another crew too. Like angles are everything, and something in the middle of the field, or even almost over by the other guy. And I know I've heard the term like don't fish in other people's ponds.
Yeah.
And one guy might say, "Oh, like I saw the defender holding the receiver's jersey, but where the other guy was standing, he couldn't see it, right? Because he was behind him, and maybe he was pulling from the trail position." And I told my guys, like, it's fine, throw it, especially if it's kind of in that middle, like you're saying, it kind of a covered spot. You kind of share it a little bit,
Yeah.
and sometimes you don't really see it. So you might have a completely different angle, and you might see something the other guy doesn't, and then by all means, dump your flag. But then you got guys arguing, hey, like that wasn't pass interference. Like, why'd you throw that flag? That was my guy.
The great one is how did you see that from all the way over there? But then you got the parents from all the way up in the stands that are seeing it too. So,
so it is. I mean, you're covering however wide a football field is, 53 or 55 yards or something. You got to cover all that with just one guy back there, or two guys. We just split the field, so it's tough. It's very tough.
So your answer kind of led us into our next question that I have, talking about the crews and rule enforcement. So I'm trying to think of a good term here. How does your crew work it? Flag has been thrown on a play. What are now the mechanics that go in with the whole crew getting involved and making sure that the penalty is enforced correctly? Because I've seen at times you got half the distance penalties. High school pass interference is a 15-yard penalty, ladies and gentlemen. It is not where the penalty happened like it is in the NFL. But
nor is it a first down.
Yeah, nor is it an automatic first down, correct. So how does your crew work?
Yeah, and this is a really good point and topic, and it's certainly going to be a point of emphasis as a chapter this year. I think we're going to be getting more huddle, like game clips that are uncut, right? Like just raw game film. Because I watch a ton of film, and there's times where I'm trying to go from play 18 to 19, and I have no idea how we got from that spot to that spot.
All of a sudden the ball's 7.5 yards up more.
Right. And you're trying to figure out, hey, was there a penalty? What was the penalty? Where was it enforced? like sometimes you might see a flag kind of skip in, into the camera view,
Yep.
and you're like, you're looking at the film, you're like, maybe they have a hold, maybe they have, it's tough, right? So that's a huge, and I screwed up all the time because I know I get so wrapped up into all of the enforcement, and last year I love the rule change. Like I don't know how we thought about as far as have we now use our the previous spot for a bunch of fouls for holding, and I mean I don't want to get into all the rules for it, but I think it made it a lot
Makes
easier and a lot more
agreed
fair.
100%.
We had a playoff game where the quarterback got face masked like 15 yards or something behind the line of scrimmage, and the year before we would have gone from where he got tackled, and we basically would have just gone to the previous spot
Yeah.
and just replayed the down, right? But now we could go to the previous spot and go 15 yards up from there and actually reward the kid for getting face masks. Like it wasn't before, it was like, the kid did nothing wrong. In fact, he got, he was a victim of, not victim, but he was on the wrong side of a foul and got
No,
really
no,
nothing out of it.
another example of that for me as the umpire is the holding penalties. Used to be a
Yeah,
holding penalty if it happened, say, 5 yards in the
crushing.
backfield. It was 10 yards from the spot of that foul, so it would now be, because you'd replay the down, it would now be 1st and 25.
Yeah, those
Well,
are
now,
15, 20-yard penalties.
yeah. So I mean, those are drive killers in their own right. But no, it's definitely, I think, a great rules adjustment that we did throughout the association for that.
Yeah, so I think there was, so I don't know if you just kind of go off topic real quick. I don't, you saw the email of like the only new rules, that stupid uniform thing.
Yes. Yep.
So
So
that
this
was their,
year,
they meet in Indianapolis and they're there for a week, and that was their decision, was that you have to wear the same uniform.
this year we're going to find out which one of the athletic directors have done their jobs and not, because uniform stuffs are going to be very difficult. Matching colors, gray colors, different things like that. So
The,
hopefully the vendors are on top of it that are selling teams the uniforms and say, no, you guys can't do it that way.
so as far as penalties, once one happens, I sometimes my mind just gets going crazy because I spend a ton of time in the rules and in the writing book and stuff trying to get all this. So I'm always like, all right, what do we got? Like, do we have something awesome? Do we have a first touching, and then there was a penalty, like all this kind of cool stuff. But I always tell myself just to slow down, get the penalty, and then my big thing I always screw up is doing the prelim. Get
Okay.
it out there, get away from everybody too, because I usually have all my guys around me, and I get my signal, and usually the press box guy or clock guy will tell me, hey, I couldn't see it. We were guessing in the press box with the PA guy, and you'll hear it, right? Like they'll be like, I don't know, maybe there was holding, and you're like, no, it was a block in the back. But then you
Yeah.
realize, hey man, that's all me as a referee. Like I need to do the prelim, so right away, as soon as I hear it, hey, I got block in the back. All right, make sure nobody's around me, even if I have to like kind of jog off to the side. And then we went to that Sayreville clinic, and it was really useful. But the referee there is like, stand very still, focus, stare at the press box, give your signal, block in the back, offense. Then get your guys together. Where's the end of the run? Because again, as a referee, I have no idea. They'll laugh at me like, how do you not know that was a 50-yard pass? I'm like, I have no idea, right?
Yeah.
So all right, so the result of the play is a 50-yard gain. What's the foul? Block in the back on the offense. Okay, when did that happen? Was it after the guy caught it and he's running? Was it before the pass? That kind of stuff. Where did it happen? Like, is this, and I'll point, like, is that where the foul was? Because you just throw the flag sometimes, it just ends up wherever. And so you get all
Yeah.
that information.
We all try
And
to get
then,
that spot with the flag, but sometimes it doesn't land or
yeah,
go where
have
we
kids
want
pick it up and hand it to you and stuff.
to. They're just trying to be nice.
Yeah, I'm like, no, like, leave it on the ground. Usually in the younger levels, which are hilarious. Like, this fell out of your pocket. Like, no, it didn't fall out of my pocket. It's supposed to be there. So anyway, so get all that information, and then you can some penalties right away. like a case like that, you have holding on the offense and there was a 50-yard gain. Hey, I'm not going to the defense. Like, I know, holding
Yeah.
offense, 10 yards previous spot, replay the down, right? Those are usually pretty good. And then this year was, especially early in the season, because I got kind of a veteran crew, it took him a little longer to, with my umpire, because he's the one marking off all the penalties. And I'm like, go to the previous spot, mark it off. And then really, you got to check to make sure the down guy, because a lot of times your down guy will take off running.
Yep.
And you're like, did the chains move? Hey, well, where was this? No, I need to know the previous spot. And then sometimes you look at this, maybe the scoreboard has it. And then you say, hey, Dennis is my umpire. Like, Dennis, 10 yards from the previous spot. And then as he's doing that, then I try to give my real penalty signal to the press box, and then go. And then you got to check everything again, like after, because we usually have so it's confusing, right? Because it's not set in stone who does what, and I think that's what gets, because you have I like to have the guy who threw the flag come to me, but sometimes that's your covering official. Like, say he's the short guy, and you have a run for 5 yards. He has the spot, so I don't want him coming off the spot, because we need to know that, because the defense might wave off the foul. Penalty. So I try to get the deep guy from that side to come get the end of the run, hold the football. Like I just said, put the football at your feet. Like, don't ever move the football. And we use the radio sometimes.
Yep.
Some of my guys do not like the radio. They hate it. So getting them to use it sometimes is a pain in the butt. They'll just turn them off mid-game.
Again, just for the listeners out there, so New Jersey, it's now been about 3 to 4 years that we've had it full blown, with each of the referees on the field and up in the press box having a mic'd headset, so an O to O, so that we can communicate with each other, just for situations like this too. So, but some guys are old school and don't like it. It's still relatively new, but of my personal opinion, I love it. I think it helps the game out. I think it helps us out as officials.
There's a use for
it. We're also low technology with some of the stuff too. So sometimes you're getting the local radio station through the headsets, which can be annoying.
Yeah. I try to use a number up pretty high so people can't. Usually don't get on it.
All right.
We used to channel 1 and it was awful.
Yeah, everybody's on channel 1. I know with our crew, we talk about it in our pregame routine about who's got what. Come report the penalty to us. And the white hat that I'm with, he's big on, if we mess up the penalty enforcement, first of all, it makes him look bad, because again, he's got the white hat. He's the one that's facing the press box. He's the one that's got all eyes on him. But it's not his fault, it's the crew's fault. So we all have to make sure that we're on the same page, and that you, as the referee, you've got the right information from us, so that and you're giving your preliminary, so that, all right, let the coach now have a minute or two to make their decision on what they want to do, if they want to accept it, to decline it, but also that we're all marking it off correctly. So I know that's something that it's a crew type of thing, and not just the referee. And
I think it's probably the biggest. Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest all crew situation of the game, because you're pretty much any foul. There's all 6 of us need to be doing something. Like the umpire marks it off, but then the other. Usually, if the foul happened on one side of the field, the other wing will mark off the penalty too, and we make sure that both spots are the same. Hey, I marked off a 5-yard penalty. And we also tell the down guy, so we can have somebody on the head linesman side, like, don't move that previous spot until we've marked off the penalty. And then we check, are we 10 yards from that previous spot?
From that chain.
And make sure we're good, because sometimes, hey, maybe he misheard me and the umpire walked off 15 yards. Maybe he thought it was a face mask and not a hold. And then my other wing guy, he walked off 10. And then we're radioing, hey, hold on, our spots aren't lined up. Then as long as nothing moves, you're okay, right? You can go back.
Yeah.
And say, no. Just go 10 from the previous. You went 15. Because the last thing you want to do, is have one guy mark it off. You reset the chains, or you move the chains, and then you realize, hey, we got it wrong. Because then you look like It's awful. You look at Keystone Cops out there, and I think that's one of the good things that we'll be able to do with raw videos to watch all this. And also,
Hmm.
it's got to be quick. Like I'm not saying rush, but you got to have purpose in what you're doing. Move the ball once, have your signals clear, have your communication with the coach, especially if you have options. Like, coach, what do you want? You want second and 15 or third and 5? Because he might just be like,
Yep.
I want third and 5. Wave it, wave it off. But if you mark it back, and then he's like, oh, hold on, I want to decline it. Now you got to move everything back and change it down. You look terrible, right? And you look like you don't have any. It looks like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
And then your
and
credibility.
it does look at us in the negative when it could be the coach possibly not hearing it or not knowing what was going on at that
Or
point
you
in
read
time, or just us, we didn't communicate it that well to the coaches
right.
themselves. So, and that's where I like having the headsets too, because we got a guy that's right on the sidelines right next to the coach.
Yep.
So hopefully they're able to communicate it, or the deep man can come down and he can communicate it. And I know the
Right.
coaches are always looking for, because we don't have microphones that we're projecting out to the crowd, so they want to know, all right, who was the foul on? Do you have a number for
Yeah.
me? So,
That's like I think I've learned that's like one of those things of more. It took me a while, and I still screwed up sometimes. Just getting the number, it's
yeah,
like huge. It's huge because I've learned. The coach. The coach who the flag's on is always going to be upset, and if you can get him a number, usually that anger goes to the kid, and now you're and
yep,
sometimes they think if you don't give them a number, then you didn't see the foul.
correct.
And sometimes you might see a face mask or something weird inside of a pile, and you don't really get a number. Maybe you just try to pick a kid in the pile, like I saw 55 in there. I'm going to say it's on him. But I have learned if you get a number, it it lends a lot of credibility to your call.
Yes,
It takes some heat off of you for a minute because now that coach is going to be ticked at the kid. Um, and you can start working with the other coach because that coach is the one who's got to figure out what he wants to do.
yep,
The team that did the holding, they're out of, they have nothing to, you don't need to talk to them. Give them the number and move on. But the penalty enforcement's huge. Like I said, I screwed up a lot. I get too wrapped around the axle and what's going on. I don't get my signals. I don't get my signals away from the muckety muck. I might have my crew around me. I might have the kids argue with me, and I'll just kind of quickly do it, and I think I did it, but it's not visible. Um, so I think a lot of times checking with your ECOs helps a
yep,
lot. Hey, how the penalties look tonight? Were they clear? And then do your best in film to see did I do it? Did we administer it? Because and I try my best, and it's going to be good if I can watch real film of crews and I can really go into the penalty stuff and make sure we're getting it right.
yeah. And again, for those that don't know, so the state of New Jersey, actually, I know, I'm not sure if it's the entire state, but I know our particular area. They use an editing program called Huddle that the high school teams use, and they use it for film exchange and their breakdowns and everything like that. And we've been lucky enough the last couple of years that the high schools have been working with us, the officials, on sending us not just clips of things that they think was a bad
Yeah,
call or whatnot, but actually sending us now whole game films to go back. And I know I go back and I review my positioning. Did I see this? Did I miss this? So just like the kids and the coaches are doing, they're studying film. I'm also going back, and you're mentioning it a bunch of times, going back and self-critiquing yourself to try to get better at what you're doing. But sometimes, as the official, we're not getting the whole picture, like you're saying, because they clip the picture. So they stop it at the end of the run, and then they started a couple
second
seconds before
snap.
the next
Yeah.
snap. So we're missing out a little bit on the officials, but it's still such a great teaching tool
Oh yeah.
for all young officials, for all young players. So I think that's something that's helped a lot of people out, and just becoming better at our craft, because we're not perfect. We are human. We do make mistakes, and if we can go back and learn, or on the positive side, we could say, no, I did get that one right. The coach was very unhappy about that, but I did get that right, and we did enforce that correctly. So it definitely helps with the mindset for us too.
Yeah. No, it's great. I think a couple years ago we went with or the state converted over to huddle pool. So now we can grab just about every. I think this year we got every game. Used to be we'd get maybe one or two games. We'd have
Hmm.
maybe two or three schools that were really good, and then some schools were very secretive. Like, oh, why do you guys need our film? And it's like, no, it's just for us. Like, we don't have no
Yeah.
interest in. We're not telling the next crew that so and so is a pain in the butt or holds every play. We're just, I don't even watch much of the play. I mean, I do some, but almost everything's just mechanics.
Yeah.
It's all I really watch. And I watch every game, and I usually come up with. I try to boil it down to maybe 10 plays that I send to my guys every week to say, hey, look at these. There's something we need
Yeah.
to get better at.
And you, as the
Um,
white hat, you are the head crew, the head person of the crew. So it kind of falls on your shoulders a little bit to
yeah,
make sure that the
unfortunately,
other
it's kind of what
officials
it
are
is.
in the right spot. So it's a great thing. And I mean, sometimes in the heat of the moment, everybody finds themselves a little bit out of position. But if you can correct it, and just like playing the game, if you can kind of slow the game down in your mind, you see a sweep coming your way. Let me back out. Let me get myself a safe distance while also keeping your keys and your mechanics good. Those are all good things that you could possibly pick up on film. I mean, we've both seen people kind of get taken out and not see what's going
Yeah,
on, not realizing it. So it's great to always learn from that. Chris, I got one more question for you. Um, Being around, filling in on different crews and stuff like that. I know you said you were more of a deep guy. You're now head referee. And you said the only position that you haven't truly officiated was umpire. With being somebody who's been in multiple spots, what do you think is possibly like the hardest spot on the field as a football official? Do you feel it's a short wing, a deep wing, your position as the white hat?
I I've always felt it was the short wing. I just think I just think you have so much to do. Anytime I've done it, to me a lot of times it becomes a little bit overwhelming because you have all your pre-snap stuff, all your formations and offsides, onsides. You got the coaches in your ear. Um,
Well, the coaches
and then
are
with the
always nice
snap,
and graceful.
and then once the snap happens, you have because you're straight lined, right? So you don't always have the best view of all the holds and the stretch plays and that kind of stuff because you try never to be straight line, but by nature, since both our short guys are always on the line of scrimmage, our 6 man mechanics pretty much prohibit you don't move downfield on passes. You don't move downfield until the play's beyond you. So once it's beyond you, then you have a little better angle, but um, you have all the line of scrimmage considerations for everything for all your kicks and your scrimmage kicks, all that stuff. So I know I've had some new guys, like new officials that came in as short wings, and I had to move them. I had to move them back because
Okay.
it's too much. Um, some guys can maybe do it. I know if when I started, there's no way I had to be back, and being back's great because I think it's a great place to learn the game because you can see a lot back
Yes.
there, and you also have time to you have a little bit of time to think, and you have some time by yourself to try to really study and learn the game because nobody's bothering you. Um, you can keep your distance from everybody. Back judge was the best because you're in the middle of the field. Everything's coming at you. I loved it. I always say like if we ever went to 7 man, I'd just be a back judge and I would just be back there and it would just be peaceful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any no coaches, no just worry about those big plays. Um, I think referees maybe during the play is probably the easiest. Not easy, but you got to watch one kid.
Yeah.
And all the administrative stuff for referees is tough. All your pre, dealing with the ads, getting everything lined up, getting your crew together, dealing with everybody's schedules and all that. That's you spend a lot of time during the week.
Yeah.
Uh, I had no idea. I just show up at the game on a Friday and we'd all be there and have a good time and we go out. Like I never knew the work it takes to set that up. So, ton of work getting to the game. Once the game starts, it's not too bad. As long as nothing really weird happens, you kind of leave at the end of the game. Like, all right, cool, nothing really happened, which is good, you know, which is
Go out,
good,
have a drink together, talk it over, and
right?
go
But
home.
then you're someday in it. I think last year, because we were flipping wings, like so on the shore, or really in the state at halftime, our wings, so the short wing and the deep wing switched sidelines. So I really think last so like 2022, I guess, the home team was leading at every half, at the first half, and the visiting team won every game. So we had one set of referees who were always on the winning sideline. You know what I'm saying?
Wow,
So
that
we would
that's an
go out at
anomaly I never thought of.
it was weird, right? We'd go out afterwards and we'd have two guys like this was awful, like awful. That coach, and then the other wings are like, no, man, it was great. It's night and day for an
Yeah,
experience for these crews. And then we were laughing like, well, yeah, but it was 21-0 or 14-7 or something, whatever. So everything was cool. And then the second half they blew a lead, and now it's your fault.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
back when I was deep wing, we didn't switch. And I think we had a year where the home team, I was on the home sideline. I think the home team won every single game. And we had kind of the same deal. We go out at night, we're like, oh man, easiest game ever. Coaches love us. Hey, you're crazy. You're best of crew we had all year. And the other guy, it's like, I hate you guys. We're submitting all this film to huddle. You know,
Yep.
you're never allowed to referee at the school again. And we go out afterwards, like, I cannot believe how different of experience it is. When you're in the middle, you're kind of hearing both, but you're not hearing it directly, right? Like my wing guys do a really good job of keeping coaches off of me, so I usually don't have to deal with any of that stuff during an actual game. So
And that's what a great crew is about, right there.
yeah, you get veteran short guys, like keep the coaches off of the middle. That way, me and you, the umpire and the referee, we just deal with the kids, and the kids are usually fine. They're funny.
Yeah, kids are
You
entertaining at
yell at them
times.
and
So
stuff, whatever, and you move on, right? Tell them to knock off the holding or whatever. And
absolutely. Well, Chris, I truly appreciate you coming on with us today. Hopefully, all our listeners out there were able to get something from this. Um, I ask that everybody go out, hit the subscribe button. If you have any comments or anything that you'd like to see or hear in the future, please put those right in the comments. But once again, Chris Schalnat, appreciate you taking the time out to jump on here with Whistle Talk, and hopefully this helps a lot of people out. Get some new
no problem, Mike. Thanks
officials
for
out
having
of the
me.
crew. More than welcome. Thank you. All right. If you're interested in becoming a New Jersey football official yourself, follow these 4 links for more information on your local area.